today I've got about a bushel of apples that I am going to preserve 3 different ways. I'm going to be making applesauce, apple butter, and apple scrap jelly. Now the applesauce and apple butter are my recipes, and the apple scrap jelly comes from Three Rivers Homestead. I kind of jotted down her recipe as I watched her video. So I'm not going to give you that recipe, but I will point to her video and I'll link to it in the caption. But the other 2 recipes, I'll actually point you over to my site where you can print the recipes if you want to make them yourself. Right now it's apple season, full-on apple season. And we're lucky enough to have a store in town that sells bulk foods. And in the spring, they usually have strawberries, and in the summer, they usually get peaches, and in the fall, they get apples. And you can buy them by the box full. I have about a bushel, half bushel to a bushel. I've got an 18 pounds set aside for applesauce. And then I've got 12 pounds set aside for apple butter. I'm making a triple batch applesauce and a triple batch of apple butter. I'm gonna actually save the cores and use those to make the apple scrap jelly. I could use the peelings too, but I don't know where these apples came from necessarily. I don't know if they were sprayed. So, and I have washed them, but I think I'm just gonna play it safe and use the cores. I'll probably still get quite a few jars of jelly out of all these apples. So let's get started. To each Instant Pot, because I'm making the applesauce in the Instant Pot, so to each Instant Pot you're going to add about a cup of water. Just don't go over a cup. If you're a little under a cup, it's okay, but I do about a cup of water. And then 2 teaspoons of lemon juice. Uh-oh. Sounds like one of the dogs was eating eggs. Or chasing chickens, but Chuck doesn't do that, and it's Bella. Then you're just gonna put your lid on your Instant Pot. Let me get my lid out of there. Plug it in. You want to make sure your vent is on seal, and then you're going to hit manual or pressure cook for 10 minutes and let it naturally release. Okay, I got them both going, and I've got a third one over here. This is my Ninja. I don't know what I did with the lid. There it is. I'm gonna put the pressure lid on that. Make sure it's sealing. and just let it cook, and we'll let everything naturally release, and then we'll move forward with the processing. I am going to put some water over my apple cores. I have a whole pot of them because I'm going to have them boiling on the stove so that I can make my jelly. So to make the apple butter, I'm gonna go ahead and mix the ingredients in with the apples, and since I'm tripling the recipe, I need 1.5 cups of water. So 3/4 cup of molasses. This is not blackstrap molasses, it's just regular, I think the brand is Grandma's Original Molasses. So I'm gonna put in 1.5 cups of cane sugar and then 1.5 cups of brown sugar. We're gonna do 1.5 teaspoons of each of these spices. So we're gonna start with nutmeg, ground cloves, we're gonna do 1.5 teaspoons of allspice. And then you're gonna have 1.5 teaspoons of ground cinnamon. Three teaspoons of lemon juice. Then my secret ingredient is vanilla extract. We're gonna do 3 teaspoons of vanilla extract. Just adds a flavor that is so yummy in apple butter. 1. I'm gonna go ahead and give that a good stir. I'm gonna let you see in here first. So we're gonna bring this to a boil over medium heat. And then once it comes to a boil, I'll reduce it to low and just let it simmer with the lid on for probably about an hour or till those apples really soften up and become tender. More tender than they already are, because they're already pretty mushy. So I don't expect this will take too long for it to cook. I will probably want to make sure it cooks down enough so that it's a nice thick apple butter, but I'll explain more when we get to that point. I took the lids off my Instant Pots, they naturally released and all, and right now I'm sauteing them. While I was eating lunch, my sister called me and she's working up the same apples, and she said they're really watery and they are not cooking down, so I'm gonna just let them sit here and evaporate for a little while. And I'm gonna do the same thing with the apple butter. I may end up mashing this up before long and then let it cook down more after I mash it, but we'll see. I hope it wasn't a big fat waste of time. I've got jars to wash and still some jars to get out, so I'll just get everything prepped and ready so that when I'm ready to go. I use an immersion blender for this part. It's just a handheld blender and it'll blend the sauce up really easily. Okay, I'm also going to blend up this apple butter while I'm at it. And if I need to, I might have to let it cook down just a little bit more, but we'll see. Looking pretty good. Looking pretty good. It's a little liquidy. I think it could cook down a little bit, but it will, as it cools, it will thicken a little bit. So I'm not gonna let it do too much, but I'm gonna let it cook down a little bit. I'm just gonna put it on some low heat and let it simmer. The apple scrap jelly, I need a pot holder. The apple cores are boiling on the back of the stove. I may have to add a little bit more water to them. I had to do that last time too. In fact, I think I'll go ahead and do that. At this point, I'm going to go ahead and jar up my apple butter because I think it's thick enough and ready to go. I'm going to jar it in jelly jars. They're half pints. I'm going to fill them to where I leave a ½ inch of headspace. Then I'll wipe the rims, put the lids and bands on, and I'll put them in the water bath. With apple butter and applesauce, I usually water bath for about 20 minutes. Now, you may need to add extra time depending on your altitude, so just be aware of that. And check like your extension or a cookbook if you have one, and it'll tell you how much extra time for however many feet in altitude that you are. Here I usually have to add an extra 5 minutes, so I'll probably let mine go for 20 to 25 minutes. Alright, I'm gonna go ahead and get these out and get them filled up. I've got something sticky on the floor, and I guess apple butter, I don't know. I keep stepping on it. Make me a little crazy. When I'm pouring into jars, sometimes I use a canning funnel and other times I use this funnel pitcher. It's super handy. Has this long neck, so it goes right into the jar without making a mess. Anyway, just a tip. put the rest of this back on the stove so it can just simmer. And maybe cook down a little more because it's still a little more liquidy than I would like it to be. We'll see if we can get it a little bit thicker. I don't know. I don't think these apples were what they said they were, because these were supposed to be ginger gold apples, and they're supposed to make excellent applesauce and apple butter, but they're very liquidy. With lots and lots of liquid. Here we go. The thing about water bath too is that you want your water to be ready, be hot and boiling preferably. Then once you put the jars in, you've got to bring it back up to a boil. Sometimes you might need to add water because you might not have enough. I have plenty. But basically, you're going to put the lid on and bring it back up to a boil. You might even want to vent the lid a little bit, but you'll watch it. Once it comes to a boil, then you'll start the timer for your however long your water bath is. In this case, it's going to be 20 to 25 minutes. I took my big batch of applesauce out of the bigger Instant Pot. Smaller one I'm going to try to jar up quick and can. I took the one out of the bigger Instant Pot, burned my hand in the process. Now let's jar up some applesauce. Applesauce is like the easiest thing that you could ever make. I mean, it's apples, a little bit of water. In this case, I really don't think I needed the water. And lemon juice. That's it. I don't add sugar to my applesauce because I want Dan to be able to eat it. And I want it to be healthier. I don't want it to be full of sugar. So I feel like the apples are sweet enough if you use the right apples. And these apples were fairly sweet. They had a little bit of tart to them, but they were fairly sweet. I'm gonna start with 4, because I think that might be enough. And I'm gonna try not to burn myself in the process of doing this one. I'm not gonna get near as many jars out of this as I wanted, but that's okay. I can always make more. Applesauce, again, it's usually really easy. Come to a boil, and then I'll process them for 20 to 25 minutes. Gotta scrub this pot because it burnt to the bottom. The biggest part of canning is cleanup. It really is. It's 1/3 canning and 2/3 cleanup. Now I'm taking all those apple cores and I'm gonna mash the juice through a strainer, kind of mash anything that can go through this fine mesh strainer into the juice to be a part of that jelly. And I want to measure it as I go so I know how many cups that I have. About 8 cups. up some dry ingredients so that I can mix it into the jelly when it's ready. Now we need a sprinkle of cinnamon. Now whisk that up. Basically, what I do now is once that comes to a boil, I whisk these dry ingredients into the wet ingredients and then bring it to a boil one more time. I'm gonna boil it for a minute and then I'm gonna put it in jars and put them in the water bath canner and can them for at least 15 minutes probably. I will link to her recipe in the caption below the video, and I'll also link to it in a little card here so that you can go and watch her video and get the full recipe. I got 28 jars of apple scrap jelly. I finished up all of the apple preserving last night. I ended up with 19 jars of apple butter, 11 jars of applesauce, and 28 jars of apple jelly, apple scrap jelly. So I think that's plenty. We should have plenty to eat over the winter and plenty to give away a few jars for Christmas as well. I was a little worried last night because those apples were so liquidy and I had to cook everything down so much. I don't really think they were what they said they were. I don't think they were ginger gold apples. Maybe they were. Maybe they're more juicy than I'm thinking, but last night I was a little worried that the jelly wasn't gonna gel very well because there was a lot of juice, but it gelled up perfectly. Using just slightly less pectin, it's the perfect texture. It's the perfect texture for jelly. The applesauce I had cooked that down. It turned out pretty good. Now the apple butter, I really like a thick, almost chunky apple butter, and it's not quite there, but it's still really good flavor, so not gonna complain. This morning we made biscuits and we tried out the apple jelly, and we also had some apple butter, and that was really delicious. I'm excited about all the things we can enjoy this fall and winter. Anyway, I'm gonna get them labeled and I'm gonna get them put away in the cabinet and then get things cleaned up.